And away we go. Hey y'all, I'm Tara-Nicholle Kirk. I'm the founder and CEO of Soul Tour. We are a school of spiritual strategy for smart, successful people. We're here because today is the 157th, if I have that correctly, and I think I do, volume edition of Transformation Tuesday. And so actually I'm going to be teaching almost every day for the next couple of weeks. So, because I got a lot on my chest. I had a lot of stuff you guys have said you want to talk about, so we're going to talk about it. And one of the things that came up this weekend was talking about till death do us part. So let's go there. As quiet as it is kept, till death do us part will jack your life up if you let it. So don't let it, all right? So let me tell you a story about my dad. My dad is he's like an entrepreneur in his soul, all right? He's always got a business idea. Most of them are good, some of them are great, but he doesn't always read the room too well when he pitches his ideas. So here's an example of what I mean. The last time I took someone home to meet my dad, we showed up and he was in the garage and he was just like flush with the exhilaration of a new business concept, a new idea. So he says, all right, let me share it with you. Let me pitch you. Here's the idea, he said. What if marriages were just 5 years long and they just expired every 5 years unless the people who were in the marriage decided to renew the marriage? Bam. What do you think? So it was like this very quintessential Randy moment where I'm like, all right, so that's not exactly a business idea, first off. And while I wish that he perhaps hadn't brought this idea of expiring marriages up within like 10 minutes of meeting my boyfriend at the time, Randy wasn't exactly wrong. All right, so I was very much reminded of this anecdote with my dad over the weekend when an old friend who's like, baller, kind of badass, brilliant, professional woman started to share with me. We had this like impromptu coaching session where she started to share with me how much she was still struggling with her divorce from almost 10 years ago. The story of her divorce, the way she was telling and conceiving of the story of her divorce in her mind had kind of become warped into this self-shaming like monster that has been dwelling within her for 9 years. She actually said, I was scarred for life. And when she said that, like the coach in me rose up. Rose up. I had to stop her. I actually interrupted her. I was like, I won't even let you be scarred for life. Okay? Like, we're not doing that. All right? We have got to get you a new story about what actually happened. Now, I know you've been in therapy. I know it was actually traumatic. Like the way everything went down was super traumatic. I don't mean to make light of that. I know you have grieved and mourned and maybe still have some more to grieve and mourn. And I know it doesn't feel like it in the moment, but everything is healable. Everything is healable. All trauma, everything, and it's time. It's time. So, till death do us part is a toxic remnant from a toxic time when a toxic power structure purported to be speaking for God. This was before we knew that the voice of God speaks to us, through us, and within us all day, every day, in the form of our intuition, our inner guidance, our inner wisdom, our inner intelligences, those shackles on, shackles off feelings, those bolts and jolts and golden threads of inspiration. The problem can be that shackles on, shackles off can also indicate trauma that's still in your system, and you may not even know it. Shackles on, for many people, shackles on can actually feel like home. All right, so if we had a parent or a caretaker when we were very, very young who was withholding or distant, withheld affection, attention, appreciation, approval until we performed or conformed or held back or shut up, or acted a certain way or just were quiet and out of sight, right? or a parent or a caretaker who is distant or abusive, or narcissistic, or shaming, or judging, or violating of our boundaries in a chronic way, physically, sexually, otherwise, emotionally, that same energy, that same like template of energy will feel like home to us as adults. And it will feel like love to us, even as adults. My teacher, Dave Rico, once told me that if you ever are in a crowded ballroom and you look across the room and you meet eyes with someone and your eyes just link and you feel drawn to each other. And I was like, I got married to a guy like that one time. He was like, if you ever have that dynamic of like feeling drawn to someone like that, you should approach them. And what you should hand them is your therapist card. All right. You should hand them your therapist card. So, if you're still at a place in your own personal journey, in your own personal soul tool, where your early life trauma is still very active in your neurobiology, in your psychology, anywhere in your brain, your mind, your soul, your body, and you are locking eyes across the room with someone, right? This happens when you have the same relationship pattern over and over and over again. So you lock eyes, you're drawn to this person. That magnet that you have with each other may not be the love that you are entitled to in this life. It may be a magnet, okay? A magnet that is a part of your sacred contracts, part of your sacred curriculum, part of the things you are here in this life to learn and remember about life and about love and about the universe and about yourself. And so if you have that magnet and you link up with that person and you end up marrying that person like I did, and, that magnet is something you're here to learn. It's not something you're meant to be saddled with and burdened by for the rest of this one wild and precious life. All right? So what's fascinating, what I love so much about the way spirit works, the way souls work, is that when you learn what you needed to learn in that magnet, it'll feel like the poles on that magnet reverse. If you've ever been in a relationship like that, where it was like you guys you couldn't not be together, and then some maturity happens, some learning happens, and it's like it's all gone, like the charge is gone immediately. It's like the poles reverse. The poles will the magnet that you once had, those magnets will literally repel. Okay, and you're not supposed to overrule and override that repulsion that says, I'm done with this curriculum. I'm done learning what I needed to learn in this relationship. You're not supposed to overrule and override that in favor of external approval or some vow that you took spiritual light years ago. All right. Part of what you're in relationships in this life and in this world to learn is how to hear and heed your own inner guidance, how to listen for disharmonies and address them, how to live in ever increasing alignment and joy as you learn to follow the sacred God-given intelligence that is wired into your spirit. It's literally the intelligence that's in your cells that causes your stomach to churn when something ain't right. That is how God speaks to you in you. It's also how your trauma speaks to you within you. All right. So again, as I was talking with this wise and wonderful woman the other day, as I was kind of coaching her through her experience, she was sharing that she spent the last 9 years out here second guessing, or self-judging rather, her own intuition, telling herself a story of brokenness, letting herself be told the religious story of sin, right? When what she really did, what she had really done, was very courageously exhibit the courage to make a very necessary ending, all right? And I know this from experience. I've been married a couple times at a time, especially where I was very, very much still involved in dogmatic religion. I know it because for 50 years, my own grandmother lived with the mental narrative and the shame and the self-judgment of religion-based sin messaging for getting a very necessary divorce that probably changed the course of many lives for the better. Definitely changed my life and my descendants' lives for the better. All right, and she still was telling herself that she'd done a wrong thing, done a bad thing. So again, till death do us part comes from this toxic time when these toxic power structures told us a toxic message about what God really is and wants. And you know what? We know better now. We know better now. Because now we know that the idea that till death do us part is even a desirable thing is a lie of a culture that promotes bondage and constriction and repression. And we know what the origins of the word sin really are. The origin of the word sin is a concept of misalignment from the divine genius plan for our lives. And so many necessary endings actually help resolve painful and increasing, intensifying misalignments, creating the space for wholeness, creating the space for alignment, creating the space to learn the skills of maintaining free and clear, healthy, beautifully boundaried relationships, real, respectful, enriching, meaningful love that you can feel, that feels like home in your nervous system, not burden and shackles and constriction in your nervous system. All right? The truth is that till death do us part is wildly incongruous with the house rules of the freaking universe, y'all. The house rules of the universe say that everything changes, that there is a season for everything, that everything is born and everything ends, and that both something starting and something ending, that is natural and normal, right? The house rules of the universe favor those. Catch this principle. The house rules of the universe favor those who can see and detect and have the courage to address and resolve disharmonies and misalignments in a way that is obedient to their own wise inner being, to their own intuition, not to the external validation or rules of some very, very, very flawed institution, y'all. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but institutional religion has actually failed. All right. Creating space, laying the groundwork, tilling the soil that will bear fruit of a whole new kind of way we can be in relationship with source and spirit and God and divine and all that is. All right. So I'm not saying that every relationship must end in a, disastrous, blown up kind of way. But I am saying that the most thriving love, actually what I am saying is that till death do us part does a disservice to real love, to real thriving love relationships and partnerships and marriages, which all have seasons where some dynamics begin and end, and patterns begin and end. And the most thriving humans in these thriving relationships are those who can engage wholeheartedly in partnership through the lens of a real commitment, but not a commitment to hang into this until we die, no matter what, no matter how bad it gets. A commitment to promote each other's thriving, knowing that what that looks like will be different in different seasons, and knowing that some seasons of growth are painful, right? Not a commitment to each other's bondage to some construct, even if or when the disharmonies and misalignments grow grave, all right? So I started with a story, I'll end with a story. I went on a first date the other day, and the guy asked me, interestingly, if I would ever get married again. And I said, maybe so, probably so. And I already know exactly what vows I'll take. If I get married again, I know what vows I'll take again. And his eyebrow rose. He was like, well, I would like to hear that. And I said, well, I didn't write it. I got it from Abraham Hicks, but it goes a little something like this. I really like you. Let's see how this goes. I really like you. Let's see how this alignment adventure goes. Let's see how we can play the game of invoking and activating divine power and grace and peace and pleasure and protection around and all through each other and whatever we create together. Ooh, and yeah, let's see how much fun we can have playing the co-creation game together. How much fun can we have doing that? Let's see how fully we can open ourselves up to. Let's see how fully we can invite spirit into this game and help us create for each other an ever more wonderful life, like the old Marianne Williamson prayer. Let's see how soft we can make each other's pillows and crowns and thrones. Let's see how liberating and how lavish we can help each other's journeys be. Let's see how much energy we can activate in each other and share with each other and with our children and with our communities and with the world. Let's see how much beauty we can surround each other with. Let's see how much life we can speak into each other. Let's see how much space we can provide and co-create, how much openness and warmth and attention and affection and approval and appreciation we can extend to and shower upon each other and let overflow onto the other beings in our lives and in our world. And let's just see how much more play and ease and joy we can add to each other's transformational empire building, because that's what I'm about, and to each other's journey into even more joy, even more wholeness, even more life, even more liberation. Let's see how awake and alive we can actually get and be. So yeah, that's my vow for the next time I get married. I really like you. Let's see how this goes. I like that better than till death do us part. So keep your head up and keep your heart out. And a couple PSs. Yes, I will officiate your ceremony for you. DM me. And the second PS is that this idea of till death do us part being like actually whack is not just about relationships. It's not just about marriage, and it's not just about romantic and relationships, and it's not just about relationships. Like in general, a disdain for, an antipathy to ending things that aren't working to your detriment, that aren't working to the detriment of what could be in your life, is a disdain of endings that need to be made, is a hot mess coming in hot. It's a hot mess in the making. So I require every one of my students in the School of Spiritual Strategy to read and to study and to practice and to implement Henry Cloud's book and frameworks around necessary endings. There's a book called Necessary Endings by Henry Cloud. You should get that book. If you don't have that book, get that book. If you have that book and you haven't read that book, read the book. That book and that work will grow your capacity and your skills to identify the endings that need making. And sometimes it's a relationship that needs ending. Sometimes it's just a pattern in a relationship that needs ending. Sometimes you need to do one first and like let the chips fall where they may. It will help you identify when to make an ending, what needs ending, and help you build the very uncomfortable at first and much, 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 much easier with practice skills of making any ending you identify that you need to make. So this book is very, very life-changing. It certainly changed my life. We give thanks to Henry Cloud for letting that work come through and for transmitting it to us. Just Google Necessary Endings and you'll find it. All right, so I'll see you a whole bunch of times in the next few days because there's a bunch of lessons that need to come through. Keep your head up and your head out. Keep your head up and your heart out and your heart open. I love you. See you soon.